Welcome everyone to Planetary Music Project. Jefferson Glassie, Chief Spiritual Dude of the Planetary Gig Society, which sponsors these video episodes of tours and visits to musical communities around the world. And my partner in crime, right over here or over there, I'm not sure which.
I'm over here. I'm over here.
Tara Linhardt. Tara, how you doing?
I am doing just fine there, Jefferson, and I am excited to once again be here on the Planetary Music Project and sharing some of the exciting stuff I've found out there in the world.
Yeah, well, last episode I enjoyed so much listening to Dylan Locke and learning more about the Floyd area, the Floyd country store, county sales and all that. I mean, it was really so fabulous that you went down there and were able to talk with him and actually have a 3-part series.
That's right. So today is Fiddlin Earl White, who's actually been a prominent figure in the old time music and dance scenes for about 40 years now. So he was actually an original founding member of the infamous Green Grass Cloggers. So if anyone that knows a lot about clogging history and old time history, they probably will have discovered the Green Grass Cloggers, who I think it was pretty well known when they hit the festival. You could hear them coming, and they were quite a dance and old time party scene coming in. So, but not only is Earl White got a huge history of all sorts of music and dance and great people he's played with over the years, but he has amazing plans coming up for what he's hoping to do with some music festivals, some instructional camps. He's got this amazingly beautiful property just a bit outside of Floyd in the southwest hills of Virginia. So again, we're riding around that crooked road area of Virginia, and what a place to be. I'll tell you what, if you hear about any of those music camps or festivals out there on his property, go. You just got to go. It's just awesome.
All right. Well, I can't wait to check it out. Let's see. So here's Tara's interview discussion with Fiddlin Earl White.
I'm Tara Linhardt, and I am here with the Planetary Music Project, and I am so excited to be here in Floyd, Virginia. And do you want to just introduce yourself and where we are here?
I'm Fiddlin Earl White, and we are in the Indian Valley part of Floyd County. It's in the northwest corner of Floyd County, Virginia. And I say we're out here in them thar hills.
Yes.
Yes,
quite.
Like the natives.
Up in them there hills we are indeed. Yeah. And it is a cold, frosty morning here in November. So what first attracted you to playing traditional style music, to the old time music?
Well, I got to tell you, from way back when I was a boy, I used to love that commercial, the Mountain Dew commercial. Yahoo! Mountain Dew. And what I liked about it was right after that Yahoo part, Flat and Scrubs would basically play.
Right.
I didn't know them or even have any reference to them back in those days, but I just loved that. And then when I went to college at East Carolina University, I discovered some friends. They were mostly art students, and I was a psychology major. We started a crisis intervention center, and one of the guys that was living in the house, or part of the group, went to a fiddlers convention. And he came back and he was doing this conflicted looking thing that he called clogging, which looked very conflicted at the time.
Right.
But he kept doing it despite our ridicule. He kept doing it.
And he got better at it.
And he got better at it. And
Yeah.
it started to look really good. It sounded like he
Right.
was playing drums with his feet. Before you knew it, we were all doing it. And it was from that we started the group called the Green Grass Cloggers.
When was that?
Oh boy, that was back in 1971.
Wow.
Long time. In fact, we just had 2021, I think it was celebration of our 50-year anniversary.
Yeah, that's great. And you guys did a lot. I've heard stories about how many people discovered traditional music and discovered percussive dance because they saw the Green Grass Cloggers.
Exactly.
Because you guys were
Yeah.
big and exciting, and you were not afraid to just show up. So like people knew when you guys showed up.
Oh yeah, we made our presence known.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I've heard the legends. So then that eventually pulled you into playing the tunes?
That pulled me, well, eventually what happened was we, as Green Grass Cloggers, did a lot of the big folk festivals, the Philly Folk Festival, the Mariposa Festival in Toronto. We were pretty much all over the place. And when we first started, we were primarily dancing to bluegrass. So we danced with
Right.
Bill Monroe, we danced with all the big bluegrass bands. And then we were rolling down Route 81, where saw a sign that says Galax, Virginia, the world's oldest fiddlers convention. And we were in between gigs, so we pulled off to check this thing out.
And it was during the convention.
And it was during the convention.
Interesting.
And it was amazing because, we had our little dance boards, which was invented by a clogger, Green Grass Clogger. We called it the Step-a-tune. And we would all grab our boards, peel off the bus, and go and find the biggest bluegrass jam and put our boards down and start dancing. Well, we followed suit, did our routine in that respect. In between tunes, in another part of the festival grounds, you heard this sound like bumblebees. And a bunch of us were like, what is that? And so we wandered off, followed the sound, and came upon what were being there within a fairground. They were like horse stalls, livestock stalls. And sitting outside, that was my first visual of Tommy Jarrell. Tommy Jarrell and Fred Cochran, and those guys were sitting outside the stalls playing this music that was not bluegrass.
Right.
And as we continued to walk around those stalls,
You heard more of it.
we heard more of
Yeah.
it. And that was the Green Grass Clogger's introduction to old time music.
And then did it bite you right then?
And, oh man, right in the, you know what?
Yeah, bit you on the old tuchus.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's funny that you say that because I had dabbled with music growing up and playing guitar and on and off, did it. But it was the first time I went to Galax that I got really bit. And I just remember literally being the last person in the field going, come back!
Yeah.
Why are you leaving? We could do this forever! And I kind of knew that was it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that year we happened upon a group called Swamp Root and members of the Highwood String Band. And again, it was an instant marriage between the Green Grass Cloggers and old time music. And from that point forward, we started doing, it was a migration away from the bluegrass, and we started doing more festivals like the Philadelphia Folk Festival, primarily because a lot of the organizers saw that energy that came from the Green Grass Cloggers when we were dancing with the Highwood String Band. So we got a lot of gigs that was paired with the Hot Mud Family, the Highwood String Band, the Cork Lickers, a lot of the touring old time bands of that day.
Cool. So then what initially pulled you to come here to Floyd?
Floyd. Well, I had a friend, Tina Liza Jones.
I know Tina Liza Jones.
You know Tina Liza Jones?
Of course,
yeah.
everybody knows.
Oh yeah, a long time friend. And I lived in Charlottesville, Virginia for a while, and she kept saying, you gotta check out Floyd. You guys should check out Floyd. And so, some years passed, some 30, 40 years later.
You got around to it.
I did got around to it. I checked out Floyd, and what attracted me to it was the talk about the water. The Chamber of Commerce, everybody talked about the waters of Floyd. So Floyd County sits on an aquifer, and the waters come up through the ground and it flows out to the borders. So nothing flows into the county from anywhere. And I just went on this search. Every time I had moved to California, every time I came east to go to Clifftop or any of the festivals, I'd come to Floyd. And for a while there, I was targeting a 52-acre piece of property. And I watched that property. I watched the price go up. Then I watched the price come down. And then I met my wife and kind of got her hooked into it and said, you know, this is what I'm going to do. You want to be a part of that? So every year we'd come to Clifftop and then we'd come to Floyd.
So does she play music also?
She plays music also.
What
yes.
does she play?
She plays guitar.
Oh, that works out great.
Oh, yeah.
Guitar and fiddle. Yeah, you were looking for a guitar player.
I sure was.
Yeah.
But anyway, as a result, you know, just because of my affinity for the Floyd area, kind of got her hooked into it. We were targeting a piece of property. When we were ready to buy it, somebody else got it before we did. And then this piece came about. It's 72 acres, and it just, my vision and my view, which has been a long time vision. As Green Grass Cloggers, we danced at the Carter Fold a lot, and I just thought it was just fantastic, the fact that, you know, as they grew older, they just had people coming to them.
Right.
Instead of having to go out so much.
You're a destination location of your own.
And that is my goal. That was my goal.
Right. So on this property, you have already started doing music camps, right? Do you want to just mention a little bit about that?
Yes. Well, it started out as a birthday party. And I was talking to my friend Susie Thompson. We were doing the Berkeley Old Time Music Festival. And we were looking at pictures, and the reality was that a lot of us in those pictures, and these are pictures from like 20 years ago or more, and it turned out a lot of us in those pictures were all about the same age. And lo and behold, the following year, a lot of us were turning 60. So we decided to have a 60th birthday party.
Okay.
But we were going to do it bi-coastal, do it in Berkeley, California, and then also do it here in Virginia.
Might as well get two. Yeah,
Exactly,
it's a big
yeah.
yeah.
Well, the one in Berkeley didn't materialize, but we did the one here, and what started as the Fiddler's Jam
Okay.
was originally a birthday party. And then it just continued on from there. The past year we had our 8th annual.
So it's like your own little festival.
That is like our own little festival. We don't charge anything. We shut the bakery down for a week, and it's all about food and the fellowship of playing music. And it's not, even though I posted on Facebook, it's not in the public domain. It is basically attended by friends and
It's an
family
invitation,
of friends.
basically. Invitation festival.
Yeah, so if you came next year, and I'd say, hey, if you know, so if you have some friends who you think would appreciate and would like to be here, invite them. So therefore, it's friends of friends of friends of friends of friends.
Right.
I don't know everybody that comes.
So another question following on that is, you know, how do you feel that the traditional musics, what makes them special in terms of building community? What is it? I mean, I think there's something magical there, but you know, what do you think? Traditional music and acoustic music, it's sort of its own like weird magical thing, I think, in terms of friends and community.
Well, very much so, very much so. And music is a connector. You know, music will transcend, you know, generations, gaps, will transcend between enemies. Music will get you in trouble. Music can get you out of trouble. One of my troubling events was I'm a retired respiratory therapist, and I did a lot of home care for a while in Pennsylvania. And between New York and Virginia, I was driving a route, and I played my fiddle a lot while I was driving. Well, I got stopped once while cruising down Route 81 at 95 miles an hour because I was like this and my foot was going like that, and I was just had my tape player blasting, and I was just playing away. I look over and there's a patrol car, and the guy just says, "Pull over," At which point I felt like I was probably going to be put under the jail.
Right, because you were playing fiddle while driving, which there may, I don't know if it's anything officially on the books against that, but...
He did not even know how to write it up.
It wasn't in one of the check boxes,
I don't have that category, right. But anyway, as a result, he asked me to get out of the car, follow him to his patrol car. I started to walk behind him and said, no, grab your fiddle. Because nobody's going to believe this.
Right, at this point he needs proof.
He needs proof. So he opened the intercom on his, because normally if they stop someone, they call their buddies. So he opened the intercom and he said, now play us a tune. And I played a tune that I learned by way of...
And he's holding the thing open or whatever so that everyone back at base can believe. It's like saying, I caught a fish this big. And one's be like, no, you didn't. Right. You're like, no, I did. I have a picture.
Anyway, I played this tune that I learned by way of the playing of Tommy Jarrell. I think it's on his Green June Apple album. It's called Devil in the Straw Stack.
Okay.
And I played that tune, and at the end he was like, well, by God, you can play that fiddle. And as a result, he said, I stopped you. I have to give you a ticket for something. So he gave me a ticket for defective equipment. And then he declared that if he ever saw me playing the fiddle while driving again on his route, that he would make sure I would be put under the jail. I thanked him gracefully, and
so defective equipment's probably the least, because it doesn't affect your
like
insurance
broken
or
headlight or something like that. Right. So anyway, as a result, I got back in the car. I drove 50 miles away and took my fiddle out and finished my tune.
Right, as you would. You don't want to leave it hanging.
Yeah, you can't just leave it
hanging. Didn't do the ending riff or anything.
Right.
Cool. So I had things about like the communities here, the music communities in Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
Are they generally pretty welcoming to people, or do you see a lot of overlap of the different styles of the musics here? Or
in a way they're welcoming. There is a clear separation between old time and bluegrass. You have a few bluegrass people who will mingle into the old time jams, a few old time jammers who will mingle into the bluegrass. But from what I have observed since I've lived here, there is a pretty clear separation between the two. I mean, people are welcoming.
Right.
And I think the main thing that separates is just the knowledge of the tune base.
Right.
Like I came to the community and I played 550 plus fiddle tunes. And what I found here was that every week people are playing the same tunes over and over, and they have been. There's a group of old time musicians here who make a point of playing tunes that are indigenous to this area.
Right.
And my thing was, I was teaching, I was one of the teachers for the Floyd Junior Appalachian Musicians program.
Oh, right, that's a great program.
Jams, oh yeah, very much so. And because I'm a tune hound, and I was collecting tunes from, the Ohio Valley.
Deep catalog, yeah.
Everywhere. Yeah. So my goal was to broaden that spectrum for the kids, and I had them playing C tunes, A minor tunes.
That's great.
Yeah, it's really great.
That brings me to another one of my questions, which is, education in terms of the music. So traditional music, how has it traditionally been taught, and then how do you see the evolution of it being taught, and maybe how it will be taught?
Okay, so what I basically focus on when I'm teaching is, and from the education standpoint is, I really highlight the fact that Black Americans had a very, very large role in old time music and bluegrass music as we know it. And again, finding day to day that a lot of people just have no knowledge of that. I'd say big time in the Black community, most Black Americans don't know their roots in old time music, and just like a lot of white Americans don't, unless you grew up in it, like talking to the Sheelers, for example. I was playing tunes that was from the Sheelers long before I ever met them or even knew who they were. But as a result, it's like part of what I try to do is educate. I try to get out and expose the music as much as I can having access to playing it in schools, playing as many festivals as I can. And again, to be an ambassador, to be a representative, to show people that as I teach old time music and blue, it's not a black music, it's not a white music.
Right, and the fiddle, as I understand it, a lot of the kinds of bowing and things, there was a lot of African American influence in the rhythmic styles.
Right, very much so.
You know, and so I think it's great to have more people actually digging deeper. You know, sometimes I meet people that are playing bluegrass or old time, and it's like they started with what happened in the 1990s. You know, and it's like when you go earlier, you realize there's this huge history, and even just the Carter family and Bill Monroe. You know, all the first level people think of as the recording artists, they all say, well, I was learning from a lot of African Americans in my neighborhood,
Right.
and they were jamming together and sharing together. So.
Right. We were dancing at, I think it was the Angiers Festival one year, and Bill Monroe's band was backing up the Green Grass Cloggers. And Bill Monroe walks over to me and says, you know, you remind me an awful lot of this fella I used to play with long time ago. No name. And I was 19 years old. It was like, big deal, Bill.
Right, and now you're like, what was his name? What was his name?
I know. Well, after doing a little bit of research, or actually doing a lot of research, because I went on this pilgrimage there for a while, where I was in search of black fiddlers. And so anyway, what I discovered was that the reference that he was making at that time was in reference to a guy named Arnold Schultz.
Right, which he is, I mean, for some people well known, and there's a scholarship in his name now from
Right.
IBMA.
Yeah, but again, for me at the time that Bill mentioned it, you know, it would have been
More people need to learn that.
nice to have
those names,
that
for
connection. So, of course, when I discovered that, I was like, oh, a light goes off in my head. This is the reference that he was making at the time. And so again, it's just stuff like that I try to educate people to, you know, educate about the music. You know, for a while there, not even just for a while, even now, if I learn a tune from you, I give, and I teach it to someone else, I give credit to the fact that I learned the tune from you.
Oh yeah, that's fun.
Where you got it from.
That's part of the fun of it. Yeah.
That's part of the fun of it.
Yeah.
But what I find is that, and part of the reason it came about for me is that, especially when I lived in California, people will sit down and they'll play a tune and then they'll talk about it for 30 minutes. So playing far less tunes.
Yeah, you get a lot less tunes played.
Yeah,
But some of the back histories are pretty interesting. So.
And you're right, it is. But so my question is, just like with Bill Monroe, and then what I discovered was that Arnold Schultz was responsible for Bill Monroe getting his first gig. They played a lot together. He played a square dance. Okay? So when somebody's telling me that this is the original source for the tune, and then I know that that person played a lot with the pickers in the black community, but back in that day, it was, if you were a white person, it wasn't cool to say, yeah, I learned this from old black Joe down the road.
Right, so you may just play the tune and not mention anything.
Right, or say that it came from blah, 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 when blah, blah, blah might have gotten it from someplace else.
Right,
So that's why I feel that a lot of credit has not been given to the black community.
Well, hopefully we can start fixing that.
Exactly, because if I learned a tune from Tara, forget her, I'm more interested in who she learned it from.
Right. So
you're invisible.
In South Asia, they have a strong idea of lineage of teachers as well as tunes. And that also brings me to, I know you're doing a show coming up soon, and maybe just you could tell us a little bit about anything you've been up to or hoping to do or have done with taking the traditional musics that are sort of Appalachian based and mixing that and cross-fertilizing with maybe other musics from the world or other traditional world musics.
So in that respect, one thing that I feel is, and I get this a lot, if I'm carrying my fiddle, most people will look at me and they don't know me or know my reference, they think I'm either going to play the blues or I'm going to play jazz. Again, so I make a real point of I like the mixture, I like the admixture, but I'm really, really true to the old time aspect because there's not a lot of black people in this world playing old time music, and if I'm not out there promoting it and exposing
really
it,
digging in,
and really holding the foundation to it, I know that in the black community, a lot of it has been lost, and it will just basically disappear. So again, in that respect, I like the admixture with this show that we have coming up. I met Shake years ago. We did a documentary with WNET TV, PBS out of Manhattan, and it's called Slavery and the Making of America. And we're both in part 2 of that documentary. It's a 4-part documentary. We're in part 2 of it, and we are basically playing the role of slave musicians. And the caption is, what, at the end of the day, after the slaves have been working all day, what do they do when they're back in their own encampment? And a lot of the livelihood was, well, the musicians are playing and they're dancing and they're jolly and they're happy. Right?
Okay, yeah.
Which there may be some truth to that, because
But when you start playing music, you can honestly forget about everything else, and that's one of the things that I personally find really important about music. And when I teach my students and the camps that I've taught at too, it's like, I don't know how people who don't play music get by sometimes, because it's so therapeutic. It's like when you've got stresses from your job and your finances and your car and all sorts of problems going on, you can just play music and all of it disappears while you're playing. And sure, it comes back after you stop playing, but sometimes it's even after you stop playing less painful, because you kind of put it in perspective with some good tunes. And I mean, a lot of great tunes have been written when people were really bummed out.
Oh yeah.
Because you just want to escape the world, and you can escape the world without a hangover and without doing anything illegal, just by just zoning on your instrument, just listening to the sounds, being like, oh, that sounds so good. Oh, I love that. Oh, that brings me joy. And then you're like, oh, I better record this. I'm going to forget that. That's a good song.
All right, totally. My baby done left me, but I'm happy now.
Oh, yeah. Or what's that song? It's like, I can't wait to miss you, but you won't leave. There's something about that,
Right.
Anyway, there's a lot of humor, but even instrumental tunes, you find yourself doodling around because it feels good. Then you write songs.
And it goes back to what we were saying a little earlier about how, music transcends, music heals, music connects, music saves. Music destroys too.
Right. And I know we mentioned this a little bit before, but just, it's hard to emphasize enough how many friendships get built through music. And I find, I don't know if you find this, but with traditional music, it's acoustic music, I find it to be even more so, because the fact that you don't have to plug in and have an amp to join a jam. My friend Bert Carlson, he had been playing jazz mostly, in Chicago and DC areas, and he moved out to Southwest Virginia, and he fell in love with the traditional acoustic music, because he said, when I was in the city, it would take 20 minutes before we could play a song, a note, because everyone had so many chords and so many pedals, and the fact that you could meet up with someone in a parking lot and have your instrument out and playing a tune within literally 3 minutes, 2 minutes or 1 if you've been in tune lately. It depends on how much you need to tweak your tuners, but it doesn't take a lot. And you can have 2 people that then get joined by 3 people that then get joined by 6 people who then decide 3 of them to make second jam and then third jam, and you just faction out like amoebas, and that makes for a great picking party. But if everyone has to plug in and move, and then also the sound would carry, and that's why I love the Fiddlers Conventions, and I grew up going to some of the Mount Airies and Maury Rivers and Galaxes that they kind of ban plugging in, because if one person plays one loud electric guitar, then it destroys the 10 jams around them, and like you said, being able to just stop your tune and then hear 3 or 4 other jams at the same time, like that's heaven.
It's magical.
Yeah. So, anything else that you'd like people to know, or you'd like to share?
Yes. So as Tara mentioned a little earlier, They're part of our goal, part of our dream, which is evolving and seems to be coming true, is here at the Big Indian Farm. We call it the Big Indian Farm because the Big Indian Creek runs through the entire farm. And part of our goal is to bring a gathering of friends together. We started our first gathering last June, but we're starting what we're calling the Big Indian music camps and events. And music camps, in that our goal is to connect with a variety of different musics, and instead of it just being one particular type, and having teachers like myself, teachers like yourself, teachers having people, and again, these are all a community and family of friends, and I'm saying, let's get together and let's do this, let's make this happen.
And if anyone has not actually been out here, which I'm sure some people will see this that haven't, it is beautiful. It is just exquisite. I mean, we're right here, and there's just mountains, and there's the sun, and there's the hollers, and it's beautiful. So is there a website or something someone could look up if they happen to
There's
come
a
across
website that's evolving, Big Indian Farm.
Okay, so if someone Googles Big Indian Farm, Floyd, Virginia.
And also if you Google Fiddler's Jam. Okay. Fiddler's Jam. But we are, like I said, we did our first camp last June, and the goal was we would do a camp every other month. So June, August, and then October. And so what we're doing right now is we're hunkering into winter, and we're planning for the up and coming spring season of 2022.
Right, so people could actually camp out or bring their tents.
People camp out, yes. And it's all camping. With our camps, we provide basically breakfast and dinner. It's all about good food, all organic food. And our goal has been farm to table. So a lot of the food's coming right off the farm, or we are collaborating with other organic farmers in the area. So it's all about good food, healthy food, happy tummies, and basically the joy of playing music.
All right. So I think that's pretty much all my questions.
Okay.
Should we just play another song?
Yeah.
Wow, that was so amazing. I had no idea. Fiddlin Earl White, what did he say? He knows 550 fiddle tunes or something like that. I mean, holy
Oh, he knows
smokes.
a lot more than that. He knows
My
a lot.
God.
Let's just keep it at the exact number of a whole lot. Let's just do that. Um, yeah. So and his knowledge is not just in picking; it's also picking and dancing, and history. So yeah, I'm excited. So if you haven't ever checked out any of his shows or any of his camps, I highly recommend doing it.
Yeah, and it was also great the way that he just talked very easily and openly about, really the Black origins or
Yeah.
participation in old time music and bluegrass, et cetera. And so that was really interesting to learn. I'm really glad
Yeah,
to see that.
I think that's a great point, and I think it more people should know about the fact that a lot of what we think of now as old time and bluegrass and country music, there were African Americans in that from the get go, from the banjo coming from Africa and for the rhythmic ideas and the harmony ideas, this was a melting pot music where you had amazing people from all sorts of backgrounds coming together with the love of music, the joy of music, and the joy of building community through music. So yeah, just
Yeah, so that was a great episode, great interviews. I enjoyed seeing his place, the beautiful countryside and all that. So where are you going next for the third of your 3-part series? Where on the Crooked Road are you headed next?
well for the next part of our series of the Crooked Road area and the Floyd area specifically. So we're going to see Andrew Small, who's an artist in residence there on the Crooked Road. So
Oh,
that should be very interesting. He's an award-winning musician. He's in a whole bunch of different bands, plays a whole bunch of different styles. So don't want to miss it. Don't want to
all
miss it.
right. That's great. So please, everybody, check out the next Planetary Music Project episode, which will be the third of Tara Linhardt's Floyd series.
That's right.
Thanks, everybody. See you later.
Namaste.
Namaste.